Zarella was more than a superstar, she was a galaxy-wide sensation. Her face shone from giant holographic billboards orbiting planets. Crowds of different species gathered just to see her perform, with violet skin that shimmered under stage. Lights and eyes like twin moons, she looked like a goddess sent from the stars. But behind her perfect image, Zarella carried a dangerous secret. She was pregnant. It was a quiet truth she couldn't share, not with her fans, not with her crew, not even with her own people in her culture. Pregnancy outside the official breeding season was considered a violation of tradition, punishable by exile or worse. Her people believed children should only be born through arranged bonds. In controlled settings with council approval, Zarella had broken that rule, and she knew the price. So every day, she smiled for the cameras. She danced on stage in dresses designed to hide the gentle curve forming under her ribs. She wore belts that monitored her vitals and used holographic tech to smooth her image. To everyone watching, she was still perfect, still untouchable, but it was getting harder. The nausea was stronger each morning, the weight heavier, the fear constant. In the middle of all this stood a man named Eli. He was not a fan. He didn't work in lights or music or styling. Eli was just a human, an earthborn technician assigned to fix power lines, adjust gravity levels, and do the dirty work no one else wanted. He had been transferred to Zarella's private station after a malfunction during her last show. He didn't belong among stars and royalty, and yet he noticed what others didn't. The trembling in her hands when no one looked. The way she leaned against walls between rehearsals. Her breath short and shaky, and then, one night, he saw her collapse backstage. No one else was there. She thought she was alone, but Eli caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin was cold, her eyes wide, filled with panic, not pain, but fear. She looked up at him and whispered, "Don't tell anyone, please." Eli didn't speak. He just nodded and carried her to the private lounge, making sure no cameras followed. He stayed quiet even when she gripped his hand too tight. Even when he saw the small bulge under her dress, he understood, somehow, and he didn't ask questions after. That night, Zarella looked at him differently. She still smiled at the world, but her real self only came alive in the hidden moments with Eli. She began to trust him, slowly, carefully, one evening. As the stars outside the glass windows pulsed in blue and gold, she sat beside him near the maintenance bay. No lights, no fans, no fake laughter, just silence and stardust. She asked, "Do you think people would hate me if they knew?" Eli replied, "I don't know about people, but I won't." Her lips trembled, but she smiled. No one had said that to her before. No one had promised to stain even the father of her child. He was gone, disappeared after learning of her condition. He feared the consequences. She didn't blame him, but the loneliness he left behind hurt more than she expected. Eli began bringing her small things, warm water with herbs to help her sickness, soft cushions for her dressing room, a handmade scarf from earth woven with quiet care. Zarella wore it under her gowns during interviews, hidden from view, but always close to her heart. And the baby kicked softly when she did. But danger was always near. Her management team had started asking questions. Her stylist complained about her changing shape. Her sponsors requested body scans for health and performance consistency. She knew the day was coming when she wouldn't be able to hide anymore, and that scared her. Not just for herself, but for the life growing inside her. A life the galaxy would not accept, a child that might be called an abomination, a scandal, a disgrace. But to hurt was the only thing that felt real that night. As she watched the city lights from the window of her ship, Zarella placed a hand on her stomach and whispered, "You're not alone, okay? I won't let them take you." And behind her, in the shadows, Eli stood silently watching, guarding. He didn't say anything, but his presence was the promise she needed. The universe loved her for her voice. her beauty, her fame, but only one human loved her for her truth, and that was enough to change everything. Eli never told anyone what he saw that night. Not the guards, not the crew, not even the medical bots that scanned the hallway after Zarella collapsed. He simply wiped the security footage, adjusted the sensors, and said nothing, and to Zarella. That silence meant more than 1,000 words. She had always been surrounded by people, stylists, assistants, voice trainers, managers all around her every day, but none of them truly saw her. They saw her beauty, her status, her fame, but not the exhaustion behind her glowing skin, not the pain in her lower back when she stood too long, not the fear that woke her at night, sweating, gasping, hand over her stomach. Only Eli noticed. And he didn't ask her for anything in return that made her nervous at first. She wasn't used to kindness without a price, but the more time she spent near him, the more she understood he wasn't trying to gain something, he was trying to protect something. Eli had been on over 30 worlds. He had worked in factories, power plants, cargo ships, and war zones. He had seen stars explode and children cry, and once, long ago, he had a wife who sang to him under an Earth sky. She died with their unborn child during the Titan colony collapse. Since then, Eli kept to himself. He didn't believe in dreams anymore until Zarella fell into his arms. Now, there was something fragile and beautiful in his orbit again, something he didn't want to lose. He began showing up early, checking the stage for wire glitches before Zarella arrived, scanning for hidden cameras, silencing curious bots. He became her silent shield. Moving in shadows no one else noticed, and though Zarella didn't say it aloud, she began depending on him. She started leaving little notes, "Thank you," written in glowing ink. Sometimes she left him a wrapped snack from her planet, or a scarf that shimmered in moonlight colors, and one day, she left a message on his tablet. "I don't feel alone when you're around." Those words struck deeper than anything in years. He saved the message and looked at it every night before he slept on his narrow cot in the maintenance wing. Zarella's body was changing fast now. Her belly had grown, even with the tech disguises. The music studio lights had to be reprogrammed to avoid shadows revealing her shape, and her costumes had to be restitched daily. Her manager noticed. "You're gaining weight? Zarella, is everything all right?" he asked with a fake smile. She forced a laugh. "Just the new diet," she lied. He didn't believe her, but he said nothing for now. That evening, Eli found her sitting in a supply closet. Away from the cameras, she was breathing heavily, her arms wrapped around her middle. He knelt beside her and asked softly, "Are you in pain?" She nodded. "It's starting to feel real now. The baby kicks when I'm nervous." He offered her a drink, not the cold metallic water from the vending bots, but warm herbal tea he made himself. She sipped it with trembling hands. "I'm scared, Eli," she whispered. "They'll ruin me if they find out." Eli sat beside her on the floor. "Let me help you," he said. "You already are," she replied. They sat in silence, only the soft hum of the ship filling the space. He didn't need to give her advice or make promises. His presence alone was enough. He didn't treat her like a superstar, or a symbol, or a scandal. He treated her like a person, someone who needed comfort, not control. Later that night, Z had to perform for a private gala attended by ambassadors and trade leaders. She wore a shimmering cloak that disguised her bump, and her makeup covered the exhaustion on her face. But her eyes searched the crowd, not for fans, but for Eli, and there he was, near the back wall, pretending to fix a power cable, but he was watching her, like always, making sure she was safe. She smiled during the song, not because of the applause but because he was there. After the show, her manager pulled her aside. "There's talk, Zarella, whispers," he said, his voice low and sharp. "You're hiding something, aren't you?" Her throat tightened. "I'm just tired. she replied. But inside, panic grew like a storm. She ran to the corridor where Eli waited. "I think they know," she said, eyes wide. Eli didn't flinch. "Then we stay ahead of them," he replied. He handed her a small device, a personal jammer that would block scans and thermal reads for 6 hours. "I modified it," he said. "It should give you some time." She held the device like it was gold. "Why do you keep helping me?" she asked. Eli looked into her eyes. "Because once I needed help, and no one came that night." Zarella lay in her private quarters with her hands on her belly. The baby moved gently, like a whisper inside her. She thought of the cameras, the contracts, the cruel gossip. But then she thought of Eli, standing silent in the shadows, always watching, always protecting. And for the first time in weeks, she slept peacefully, because now she knew she wasn't alone anymore. The stars outside shimmered like distant dreams, but inside Zarella's heart, a storm was growing. She stood before her mirror, dressed in a silver gown that hugged her figure just enough to worry her. The holographic illusion still worked for her now, but with each passing day, the baby grew and the risk with it. Her manager handed her a sleek silver data tablet. "You'll need to confirm this before tomorrow's event," he said sharply. She looked down at the glowing screen. It was her contract, her entire career summarized in cold, lifeless words. Clause 7.12. Any unauthorized biological reproduction outside of councils, sanctioned, breeding windows shall be considered a breach of contract. Clause 9.3. The sponsor reserves the right to terminate all partnerships, revoke public performances, and reclaim marketing rights. Clause 11.4. If offspring are involved, subject shall surrender child to council jurisdiction for evaluation. Her hands trembled. The tablet slipped slightly from her grip. She forced a smile and nodded. "I'll review it tonight," she whispered, but her heart felt like it was cracking open. Zarella walked into the back hallway, away from the bright lights and fake praise. Eli was already there, waiting near the maintenance door, holding a mug of warm tea. She took it silently and sat beside him on a metal crate. "I think I'm going to lose everything," she said, voice low and tired. "They updated my contract." Eli didn't answer right away. He took the tablet from her gently and scanned the text. "I've seen these kinds of clauses before," he said. "This is their way of owning you, even when you're suffering." She let out a shaky breath. "I want to keep my child, Eli. I really do. But how can I? They'll take her, or they'll erase my name from every screen." Eli leaned back and looked at the stars through the ventilation grate above. "What's more important to you?" he asked softly. "Your name on every planet, or your child calling you mother?" Zarella didn't speak, but tears silently rolled down her cheeks. She remembered her own mother, cold, strict, emotionless. She had been raised for fame, trained like a weapon, never hugged, never sung to sleep, and now, inside her, a life was growing, a chance to do it all differently, to love without fear, to care without punishment the next day. Zarella had to record a promotional video. She wore a deep green gown that glittered in the lights. The tech team adjusted her appearance in real time, hiding every small curve that might raise suspicion, but the system lagged once, and a small bulge flickered on screen for half a second. It was enough. Her stylist gasped. "Wait, rewind that," she said. The screen played back slowly, frame by frame, Zarella's stomach rounder. Then it should be visible for just a blink. But in the world of digital gossip and galactic networks, a blink was all they needed. One of the crew sent a silent report to the sponsors. Labeled urgent, possible violation. It didn't take long for whispers to spread. Crew members began watching her closer. Even her guards looked at her differently. Now, like she was carrying something illegal, something wrong. Zarella locked herself in her dressing room and sat shaking on the floor. Eli found her there hours later, curled up in a blanket, eyes swollen from crying. "They know," she whispered. "I saw the way they looked at me." Eli closed the door and sat beside her. "Then we prepare," he said. "We stop playing defense and start planning how to escape this." She looked at him with tired hope. "Escape? Where can I even go?" "There's a place," he said. "A mining moonhold and abandoned, but it's off the grid. No council scans. No contract enforcement." Zirilla hesitated. "But my show. My career." He gently held her hand. "Careers come back. Children don't." That night, Eli contacted someone from his past, a woman named Commander Rhea. A rebel fighter who owed him her life. He sent her a secure message. "I need shelter. It's for her and the child. I'll explain later." Within the hour, a reply blinked on his screen. "You'll have it. But hurry." The next day, Zirilla was scheduled to perform live in front of 10 billion viewers across 50 worlds. It was supposed to be her greatest performance, broadcasted from the floating sky dome over planet Sailor. But instead, that night, she and Eli slipped away during the last rehearsal. Hidden in the supply shuttle marked tech maintenance, they left behind the lights, the fame, the applause. And in its place, uncertainty, but also freedom, as the shuttle entered warp. Zirilla looked at her reflection on the black glass. Her hands rested on her belly. And for the first time, she didn't hide it. No holograms, no masks, no lies, just a mother and her unborn child. Eli sat quietly beside her, eyes forward, hands steady on the control pad. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. Zirilla nodded. "I've never been more sure." The galaxy would soon explode with questions, rumors, and anger. But Zirilla had already made her choice. And beside her, one human had already chosen to stand by her side, no matter what came next. The next morning, the galaxy changed. It started with a single post. Just one leaked frame from the Sky Dome rehearsal footage. Blurry. Low quality, but clear enough. Zirilla's hologram had glitched, and in that brief flicker, her belly showed. Rounded, unmistakable, pregnant. The post exploded in seconds. Alien superstar, pregnant. Scandal in the stars. Zirilla's secret child. Who's the father? Genetic crime or love affair? News anchors shouted over each other. Fans were divided, some heartbroken, others furious. Sponsorship companies held emergency meetings, and the council called for an official investigation. Zirilla's name, once written in lights, now crawled across every red headline in the system. She and Eli were already gone, hidden deep within the crust of an abandoned moon station. The place smelled of rust, and the lights flickered on old circuits, but it was quiet, safe, and far from any scanner. Still, even here, the news reached them. Eli entered the room with a datapad in his hand. "You need to see this," he said. Zirilla took it with trembling fingers. Her image flashed across the screen, followed by hate, anger, betrayal, fans burning her posters, sponsors freezing her accounts. Her voice cracked. "They really hate me," she whispered. Eli knelt beside her. "No. They don't hate you, Zirilla. They hate that you're not what they expected, that you're not a perfect illusion anymore." She closed her eyes and held her belly. "I don't even care about the fame now, Eli. But I'm scared. They'll try to take her from me." She was right to be afraid. Within hours, the council issued a public statement. Unauthorized pregnancy confirmed. Subject Zirilla is requested to surrender herself for evaluation and disciplinary review, and hidden in that cold language was a darker truth. Evaluation often meant forced termination or child separation. Her child wouldn't be a star. They would be erased before they were even born. Eli activated the base's shields, locking them inside the underground shelter. He set up interference towers to block any incoming scans or tracking devices. "I've seen what the council does to people like you," he said. "We're not letting them anywhere near you." Zirilla nodded, but said nothing. She walked into the next room where she kept a tiny blanket she had sewn with her own hands. It was made from her old concert, scarf soft, colorful, and warm. She picked it up and whispered, "I was going to wrap you in this the day you were born, outside in the stars above." Ships were already moving, not fans, not media. Council patrol ships, dark, fast, and deadly. They were coming to take back what they thought belonged to them. Meanwhile, inside the rebel network, Commander Rhea intercepted the broadcast. She narrowed her eyes at the council order. "This is going too far," she muttered. She opened a private channel to Eli. "I saw the leak. I know they're coming for her," she said. "I'll bring help, but it might take a few days." Eli's voice was steady. "Then we'll hold them off until you arrive." The next 48 hours were tense. Sorella barely slept. She clutched her stomach at night. Feeling every movement, her body was tired, aching, and swollen. But she refused to show weakness, not for herself, but for the child growing inside her. Eli stood watch by the entrance, blaster at his side. Old military gear strapped to his chest. He hadn't worn armor in years, but now it felt natural again. Protecting something innocent, something worth fighting for. Suddenly, the power lights blinked red. Motion detected, the old system warned. Eli rushed to the control panel, scanning for heat signatures. "They found us," he said. Sorella stood behind him, her voice calm but firm. "Then let's not give them what they want." Eli grabbed the emergency medkit, food rations, and wrapped Sorella in a thermal cloak. They moved deeper into the underground caverns, through dark tunnels lined with mining rails. The walls echoed with quiet hums. The ghosts of the past. Sorella limped from exhaustion, and Eli supported her with one arm. He didn't say anything, but every time she stumbled, he pulled her back up. They reached the last chamber, an old engine room, now turned into a hiding nest. Sorella collapsed onto a makeshift bed, sweat on her forehead. Eli sat beside her and took her hand. "They're here," he said softly. She gripped his fingers tight. "If something happens to me, promise me you'll protect her. I swear on my life," he said without hesitation. The door above trembled. Metal clanked. Sparks Flussamon was cutting through. Sorella closed her eyes, whispering lullabies. In her native tongue, Eli raised his weapon, heart steady. He wasn't just protecting a superstar anymore. He was protecting a mother, a child, a future. As the blast doors fell and boots echoed through the halls, the world above buzzed with questions. But down here, in the shadows of forgotten stars, a human and an alien stood ready, not as soldier and singer, not as servant and star, but as a family. Sorella never thought her people would be the ones to hunt her, but now, with every echo in the tunnels, with every flicker of light on the cave walls, she knew they were here, the elite unit of the council, trained for silence, precision, and removal of anomalies. And in their eyes, her unborn child was an anomaly. She lay on the floor, her breath shallow, her hand wrapped around her belly. She could feel the child shifting inside her, reacting to her fear. Above them, metal boots pounded against steel. Scanning drones flying low through the corridors. They had tracked them to the old mining moon, and they were closing in fast. Eli crouched beside the door, adjusting the sights on his blaster. Every sound, every vibration, told him they had minutes maybe. His jaw was clenched, his eyes sharp. He had once been a soldier. Yes, but this time he wasn't fighting for duty or for orders. This time he was fighting for life. He turned to Sorella. "We need to move," he said quietly. She nodded, her body aching, legs weak. "I can walk." She whispered, "I just need you to help me stand." Eli lifted her gently, one arm under her shoulder, the other gripping his weapon, together. They moved deeper into the mine, toward an old cargo lift that hadn't been used in decades. If they could reach the bottom cavern, they might have a chance. There were no cameras down there. No heat sensors. It was just rock and silence behind them. The hiss of plasma torches echoed through the hallway. The elite soldiers were cutting through barriers, following every trace of movement. They spoke through comms in short, cold words: target confirmed, extraction or elimination. Council orders: fetus must not survive. Zorella's heart dropped, hearing those words through the echoing halls. She felt rage, sorrow, and terror all at once. Her people didn't see her as a mother, only as a mistake. But she would not let them take her child, not while she was. Still breathing, as they reached the lift, Eli punched the control panel. Sparks flew, gears whined, and the ancient platform jerked to life. Zorella leaned against him, gasping, "They'll follow us down," she said. "I know," he replied, "but I'll slow them down." Before she could protest, he took a small explosive charge from his bag and placed it on the control panel. "This will buy us time," he said. Zorella stared at him, eyes wide. "You're going to trap yourself up here?" He looked at her. And for a long moment, they said nothing. Then he smiled, a soft, tired smile. "I'll find another way down," he said. "I've always been good at crawling through broken places." The lift began to lower, grinding and shaking as it descended. Into darkness, Zorella stared upward, watching him shrink away. The last thing she saw was him aiming his weapon at the upper corridor. The red lights of enemy helmets drawing closer. Then the doors shut with a slam. The explosion came seconds later, shaking dust from the ceilings. The lift kept going, but her hands trembled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Please be alive, Eli," she thought, over and over. "Please come back to us." At the bottom, she stumbled off the platform, her legs barely holding her up. The baby was coming. She could feel it. The pain had started, low and steady, but rising fast. She collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily, alone, in the dark, with no medical help. No support, just her and her unborn child. And then she screamed, not from fear, but from the pain that split through her like fire. Above her, chaos erupted. Eli had set more than one trap. As the elite unit charged forward, tripwires activated, releasing walls of flame, rock slides, and collapsing beams. But they kept coming. Relentless and cold, Eli fought through them, blaster in one hand, knife in the other. He moved like a ghost through the smoke, protecting every hallway that could lead down to her. He was bleeding, shoulder hit, leg cut. But he kept going, because she was below, in pain, and he had promised. Down in the cavern, Zorella cried out again. She was covered in sweat, her skin glowing faintly, her hands shaking, and then a cry. Soft, raw, alive. Her child, her daughter, was born. She wrapped the baby in her scarf, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You're safe, little star. Mama's here." But then footsteps, not Eli, heavier, sharper. Zorella turned to face the cavern entrance, holding her newborn tightly. She was exhausted, broken, and unarmed, but her eyes blazed with a mother's fire. Just as the enemy stepped into the cavernel's voice rang through the dark. "Get away from them." He limped into view. Bloodied, but alive, weapon raised. "You'll have to go through me first." The cavern was cold, the air still. But the fire in Eli's chest burned hotter than any sun. His arm shook as he raised the blaster. Blood dripping down his elbow, the elite soldier at the entrance froze for just a moment, surprised that a human stood in their way. But Eli didn't back down. He stood between Zorella and the enemy, between the newborn life behind him and the soldiers who came to erase it. "Stand aside," the soldier growled. His voice filtered through a mechanical mask. "You are interfering with a council operation." Eli's lips curled into a bitter smile. "No, I'm stopping a murder." He stepped forward, his body aching, barely able to stand, but I only need to hold you off long enough." The soldier raised his rifle. In the corner of the room, Zirala pressed her baby girl to her chest, heart racing. She had no strength left to run, no weapon to fight. But she knew one thing: Lee would not let them pass. Not alive. The soldier fired. Eli rolled behind a broken support beam, returning fire with shaking hands. The blast missed its mark, but sent the soldier stumbling backward. Sparks flew, stone shattered, and alarms from their armor systems blared. Through the chamber, then more footsteps echoed behind them. Reinforcements were coming. Zirala closed her eyes and whispered softly to her child, "Little star. Hold on just a little longer." She glanced toward Eli, her vision blurry. He looked like a man possessed, fighting with every ounce of pain and love he carried. He didn't care about dying, he only cared about keeping them alive. "Come on, Rhea," he muttered under his breath. "We're running out of time." Back in orbit, far above the moon's crust, a ship burst out of warps, silent and angry. Inside was Commander Rhea, her eyes focused, jaw tight. "Lock." Onto the rebel beacon, she ordered. Her crew scrambled, scanning the rocky surface until they found the signal deep beneath the ground. "They're under fire," the pilot shouted. "Then take us in fast," Rhea said. Standing tall in her armor, "Let's bring him home." Back in the cavern, Eli's blaster finally ran dry. He ducked behind the last pillar, chest heaving. Face pale, the soldiers closed in. 3 of them now, weapons drawn. "You're out of time." "Human?" one hissed. Eli grabbed a wrench from the floor. Eyes wild, "Then come get me." But just as they stepped forward, a thunderous blast shook the chamber. Rocks fell from the ceiling, dust flew into the air. A blinding white beam shot through the far wall. And out stepped Commander Rhea with her rebel squad. "Back off, my friend!" she roared, opening fire. Laser bolts flew in every direction, lighting the cavern like a war zone. The elite soldiers tried to retreat, but it was too late. One by one, they fell under the rebel fire. The room filled with smoke, screams, and the scent of burning metal. Eli collapsed to his knees, coughing. Rhea rushed to his side, pulling him up with both arms. "You look terrible," she said, half laughing, half crying. "You're late." He replied with a faint smile, blood on his teeth. "Yeah, well, you always had a bad habit of making things complicated." Zirala looked up from the shadows, her eyes wide with shock and relief. Rebel medics rushed to her, wrapping her and the baby in thermal sheets. Checking her vitals, one of them whispered, "She's stable." The child, too. Zirala burst into tears, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you," over and over. Rhea helped Eli walk over to them, his steps slow, his face bruised. He knelt beside Zirala and reached out to touch the baby's tiny hand. The little girl opened her eyes bright silver, like her mother's, and soft blue flecks, like stars, like his. "She's beautiful," Eli whispered. Zirala smiled, tears falling freely. "I named her Nova," she said. "She was born in the dark, but she brought light." The rebels secured the area, carrying them all to the ship as the engines roared to life. Eli lay back on the stretcher beside Zirala. And Nova, his body was weak, his bones aching. But his heart felt whole for the first time in years. Above them, the council sent new orders. Arrest warrants, execution threats, propaganda videos to silence the truth. But none of it mattered anymore, because they were safe. And for the first time in her life, Zirala wasn't hiding behind lights, makeup, or contracts. She was holding her daughter, and beside her sat the man who never let go even when the whole galaxy did. The rebel ship soared through the stars. Leaving behind the ruins of the old mining moon, the engines hummed softly. Carrying 3 lives forward: Zirala, Eli, and the newborn child wrapped in starlight-colored cloth. Her name was Nova, born not into safety, but into resistance. Born not into luxury, but into love. Zirella sat on the medbay bed, holding Nova close to her chest. The baby was asleep now, breathing slowly. Her tiny hand curled around her mother's finger. Zirella stared at her in silence, heart full, eyes wet. This child had no idea how many people had tried to stop her from being born, and yet, here. She was alive, warm and safe because one human stood by them. Eli rested nearby, covered in bandages, chest rising and falling with steady breaths. His wounds were deep, his body broken, but he had survived. Zirella looked at him and whispered, "You kept your promise." She remembered the moment he stood in front of the soldier, weapon shaking, blood flowing, refusing to move. That image would never leave her mind. He wasn't just a protector. He had become something far more. Family Commander Rhea stood by the door, arms crossed, watching with a soft smile. She had known Eli a long time, but she had never seen this side of him. Not the soldier, not the technician, but the father. When Zirella noticed Rhea, she spoke. Quietly, "Thank you for coming when you did." Rhea nodded. "I couldn't let Eli die on me. Not after everything." A few hours later, the ship docked on a small hidden planet controlled by rebels. No cameras, no council, no fans screaming. Zirella's name, only trees, wind, and freedom. They were given a quiet home, built into a hill, surrounded by glowing flowers and rivers that whispered songs at night. It wasn't a palace, it wasn't fame, but it was home. Weeks passed, Zirella's body healed slowly, but her spirit blossomed. She began singing again, not for crowds, not for sponsors, but for Nova, lullabies in her native tongue. Soft melodies filled with hope and love, sometimes. The neighbors would stop and listen outside the window, enchanted by the voice that once filled the stars. But Zirella didn't sing for applause anymore. She sang for one tiny audience, wrapped. In blankets held against her heart, Eli built a small garden. Planted earth vegetables and flowers every day. He would carry Nova in a sling across his chest while working. She would coo and smile, staring up at him with those silver blue eyes. "I think she likes you more than me," Zirella joked once. Eli smiled and looked down at the baby. "Well, she saved me first," he said. Zirella blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" He looked toward the sky, voice soft. "Before you and Nova, I was just breathing, not living, just floating in pain." He paused, then added, "But now, I know what it means to live for something." Zirella didn't reply. Instead, she leaned in, rested her head on his shoulder, and held his hand. They didn't need to speak, because sometimes silence said everything. One evening, Rhea brought news. The council had released a false report. Zirella confirmed deceased during rebel ambush. No one in the galaxy knew the truth. The world believed the superstar was gone, lost in war, and strangely, Zirella felt free for the first time. "No more stages, no more contracts," she said. "No more pretending." Eli replied, "No more running." Months turned into a year. Nova took her first steps in the garden Eli built. She spoke her first word under the stars. It wasn't Mama, and it wasn't Papa, it was light. Zirella laughed and kissed her forehead. "Yes, my little star, you are the light." Later, Zirella began teaching local children how to sing, how to use their voices to express, to heal. They didn't care she was famous once. They only knew she was kind. And Eli? He became the quiet protector of the village. Fixing broken systems, helping families, carrying baskets for elders. They called him the Guardian. He never liked the title, but he never corrected them either. One quiet night, Zirella sat outside, Nova asleep in her lap. The stars twinkled above, and beside her sat Eli, watching the sky. Zirella whispered, "I used to think I was meant to shine alone." Eli looked at her. "But even the brightest star needs a sky to shine in." She smiled, then leaned over and kissed him gently. Not because she had to, but because he chose her, not when she was rich or famous or flawless. He chose her when she was scared, pregnant, and hunted, and never once let go. Their child, born in secrecy, now laughed openly under the open sun. Their love, once hidden, now bloomed in every sunrise. And their story, it was no longer a tale of shame or fear. It was a story of courage, of compassion, and of humanity. A superstar had fallen, but in her place, a mother rose. A soldier had stayed behind and became a father, and the galaxy, well, it may never know what truly happened, but among the rebels, in whispers and songs, one tale always remained: the alien superstar who chose love over fame, and the human who gave her everything.